Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Bao Tran. What compelled you to make The Paper Tigers?
Hello, thank you for having me. The Paper Tigers is a story that's kind of near and dear to my heart. When I first started sitting down to write to it, I was thinking a lot about middle age and thinking about at least approaching to it. I'm not there yet, knock on wood. But I was trying to think about the themes in terms of growing up and the values that we had growing up and whether they're still important as we grow out of them. And kind of forget them and stray away. And so it's kind of a story of rediscovery, a story of relearning what was important to us and the lessons that were given to us and how we can carry it forward.
What are some of your favorite martial arts movies?
Oh gosh, there's so many great martial arts movies. I mean, I grew up watching a lot of the Hong Kong action movies, cinema. So Bruce Lee is a huge influence. A lot of the Shaw brothers, like Lau Kar Leung, is like kind of a big genius there. And then Jackie Chan, of course, is kind of the one who kind of like really was at the time when I was growing up, because when I saw Bruce Lee, he had already passed away. So at least Jackie Chan was still alive. So you could kind of see movies that were still being made in Hong Kong. So that was a huge influence. So, you know, maybe for Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury, Lau Kar Leung, 36 Chambers, or 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, and Jackie Chan, of course, you know, there's Drunken Master 2, Police Story, and all these wonderful films.
Those are great movies, and I love that Bruce Lee is in our consciousness, and so is obviously Jackie Chan. But I would love for you to tell my audience a little bit more, contextualize for us the Shaw Brothers experience.
Yeah, Shaw Brothers is very interesting because I think I think a lot of Shaw Brothers was kind of like wuxia kind of genre, the heroic. The genre is called like heroic bloodshed, in which these heroes like made these chivalrous oaths of loyalty and all these things of upholding certain righteousness. So in terms of our film, like we were definitely pulling from that a lot, and then trying to see what that looks like in a modern way. So yeah, Shaw Brothers is kind of like really operatic, I would say, and like Lau Kar Leung is kind of the most traditional kung fu filmmaker out there. Like he was very, very grounded, and he wants to show what real kung fu looks like. Whereas Jackie Chan is a more acrobatic and spirited take and more freestyle, and Bruce Lee is kind of like this more jazz and kind of almost anti-tradition, you know. So it's like in terms of all these different like styles, kind of like in music analogies, like you have all these like very classical music, you have jazz, and you have like really fun pop music. So it's kind of a different flavor. But for us, we kind of like want to take that tradition of Shaw Brothers and Lau Kar Leung and then put it in the modern. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like this mishmash of just what it would look like in the modern day, because the more contrast, I think, the more interesting it is, because it's like if the more traditional, the more weird and off kilter and just kind of archaic it is to us in the modern mind. So that was an interesting, you know, source of conflict and for our characters, and try to explore that.
Did you like Big Trouble in Little China?
Big Troubles look great fun. Yeah, John Carpenter's a huge giant. He's a genius in terms of as a filmmaker. So yeah, Big Trouble's a lot of fun, and also especially it was almost maybe there's like Last Dragon and Big Trouble, but almost like the first or kind of like most notable kind of American interpretations of martial arts films. And you could tell like it was very much fed and inspired by Asian cinema, but it was set in America. So in a lot of ways, that was an inspiration for us as well. Just kind of like what that looks like. You know, you have this continent on the other side of the world, and then we're living here in North America, and what life looks like here.
So I'm curious to know, did you just do like what they call a vomit draft for this film, or did you outline it a lot?
I would say everything's non-traditional about us.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just had seed an idea, and I would just kind of, I wrote a treatment, like maybe a 1-page or 3-page treatment. And we actually went to like a pitch market down in LA. It's called the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival. And they had a pitch market for kind of like films that are in development. So at that time, all the other films that were there, all the other filmmakers, they had full scripts, but me and my partner, Michael Velasquez, we had like this 3-page treatment to just, and not much to
Wow.
show, not much money.
Hmm.
And we just like completely, you know, um, you know, just a bag of fairy dust and a little 3-pager. So that's all we had at that time. And then as, we got started developing, and I usually work into a treatment and then into what's called like a scriptment. I guess I got it
Yeah.
from James Cameron. So he would do kind of a half script, and I'm not sure if you're too familiar with like the screenplay format, but
Mm.
it's pretty rigid in terms of like what the formatting needs to be. So
Hmm.
scriptman is a little more free flowing, where sometimes he'll write scenes with dialogue and characters, and
Hmm.
then if he doesn't really know a scene that too well, or hasn't really really drilled down on it, he'll just kind of write in prose in terms of what the scene is. So I found that really helpful, just
Yeah.
kind of like to get things going without having to get locked in a scene, and trying to figure out the scene and what exactly everybody's saying. So if I wasn't feeling it at the moment, then just say, oh, this is
Hmm.
when this happens, and then you move on, and maybe another scene inspires you to actually write dialogue. So yeah, that's kind of like the process for me. And then after you do another pass, and then start filling out into a fuller script. So that's kind of how I do things.
Awesome. Yes, I do know what you're talking about. I'm a writer myself, and I like to outline everything, but some people like to go stream of consciousness and just roll with it, I guess.
Right on, right on.
But
Yeah, all strokes for different folks.
yes, absolutely. There's many ways to skin a cat. So we were playing sort of the stream of consciousness movie reference sort of game earlier, but I would love for you to um, maybe pitch the Paper Tigers more just as the emotional core to it, and how yeah, just the simplicity of it, like just like the relationship dynamics within it.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, what we like to say, it's like, imagine having to fight a death challenge match, but you have to pick up your kid from soccer before.
Right.
So it's kind of like trying to, again, what we were talking about, the old and new, East and West, and kind of like what all that conflicts mean. Especially, it's a personal story for me, as an Asian American, but Asian ethnicity, but born here in America. So we grow up with these almost dual identities, in a lot of ways, almost like a superhero. So you have like the face you put on for the public, and the face you put on for home and your friends and your family who are of your ethnicity. So we have like these very clashing things that are going on in ourselves. So it's very, very confusing sometimes of who to be true to and which ones to be needs to be fed more. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So in a lot of ways, that's in the martial arts metaphor. You have this master, a very hierarchical kind of thing, and that's the conflict I was really interested in kind of seeing what it meant. The master who gives them these very important things and lessons and values, but like I said, life gets in the way. And he's not blood, so it's
Hmm.
not like they have to really stick around.
Hmm.
So what are the loyalties that they have to keep? And that's kind of like what was really interesting to me, because I think it's not just the martial arts, because it could be anyone for any passion or hobby that people grew up with. It could be soccer, it could be baseball, or it could be ballet, or just anything that gave them their view on life and the way they see the world and the way they move physically, and that gives them everything. And what if you were to just kind of walk away from all that?
Very cool. So back to the production of it.
Hmm.
What were the difficulties and rewards getting this movie made?
Well, the reward is obviously seeing all the incredible departments and collaborators and actors come together and like bring your story to life. So that to me is my personal high. Just kind of
Yeah.
be able to see that creativity come together, because what you wrote on paper is just on paper, and it starts to
Mm.
inspire other people to actually build an amazing set. Like Wing, our production designer, who built this amazing kung fu school, and our actors who brought like incredible performance and chemistry and connection with each other. That stuff you could never really write down, because that's just the magic of film, because there's just so many other elements that come to play, and the action design, obviously, all these kind of things that give it life. So that's the joy to me. And then the second joy is hopefully the story still to be written is, getting this out into the world, and this Fantasia is our world premiere. It is a virtual edition, but we're really hoping to be able to engage with the audience and try to see how people are feeling. And hopefully we can make a connection with our film with all the folks out there, and then hopefully, eventually have a broader audience. So that's kind of like what we look forward to, because that's the joy. I mean, there's no point in making a movie and just putting it in your shelf or something. You want to put it out there and put it into the world. You want to see it with people. You want to see how it affects people. So that's kind of like what we look forward to.
Did you enjoy working with your actors?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they're amazing. I think we really, for an independent film, it's really, really hard to make, period. But also to try to get great actors. And then if you're doing an ensemble piece like us, it's like, there's so many things that can go wrong. For example, you could have actors and egos and issues and conflicts and all that stuff. But for us, amazingly, everyone got along and just understood what the film was about and got locked in terms of, rehearsing together. We had our actors from LA, and they came up to Seattle. So they're, essentially out of towners, but they were staying, at the same hotel. And then they would, on their off days, they would just rehearse and go over scenes while we were shooting, other scenes, but they would do stuff in their off time and hang out together. And like, to me, that's a testament of how much, commitment that these actors had. And it was real, because they're still really tight with each other after the show.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I mean, I think that stuff will come across on screen, and it's hard to say, it's not something you could plan. You just kind of hope it all works out. Cause yeah, you never know if people don't get along or will get along. So it just really worked out for us, and just their passion. So I loved working with them, because of that.
Yes, I really like the aging buddy dynamic, and I also thought they all had unique character voice.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's definitely a testament to their hard work on their own, for sure, because they came at it with their own ideas. I mean, they would come and pitch, different ideas as far as like their backstory or how they want to do the scene. So I was totally open as far as wanting to hear and hear them out. So that was definitely a huge thing.
Awesome. So how large was your crew?
Well, large is relative, right? So for an independent film, I would say our crew, maybe on a given day, is about 50 or so, and maybe a bigger day if we had some swings. So we'd have, a larger crew. But about 50. A lot of crew was wearing different hats in different departments. So, it's not a Hollywood film where, every task is, assigned to a particular person. So everybody had to kind of like, roll up their sleeves and double their duty. So there was that. And our producers too, they were very hands-on in terms of getting involved, helping build sets, helping, set up all the safety construction railing and stuff. Like, we have a big scene on the rooftop. So a lot of stuff was very much, can do it attitude, and definitely indie attitude,
All right. What decisions would you like Hollywood to make to create a more representative industry?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big question. It's something that we had battled and faced as we were trying to make this film. Obviously, as you can tell, our characters are all characters of color, or characters of different ethnicities, and not non-whites. Let's put it that way, right? So when we had pitched this to a lot of the studios in Hollywood, the note was, yeah, we love the story, we love the idea, but can you make your cast white? Because we need to make it more bankable. We need to have a star. We need to get like Bruce Willis or somebody to star in it. So those were constant conversations and things that we were hitting against, and something that we always felt like this is not where we wanted to go. We wanted to cast authentically. We wanted to have our stories being shown in an accurate way, showing actors playing characters that looked like us. So that's kind of the biggest challenge, and I don't know what it could be as far as the biggest systemic stuff, but I think the most important thing is for the audience is to support films like this that come out and if they're good, then we can make more. That way we can have a track record and show that these stories count and that they matter. So it's it's huge on the audience to show, because in a lot of ways, studios and are more reactive. It's not like they're prejudiced in a real
Hmm.
way. It's they just
Hmm.
it's the dollar for them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately, that's kind of the way it is. But we just need to kind of prove it, and then they will go begrudgingly, or we will have faith in each other that we can have our own funds and build our funds ourselves. So we don't have to necessarily go through the gates as well. So there's many ways to kind of go about it. But I think the biggest thing is audience support has to be there.
Okay. Well, that's an insightful answer. I want to thank you very much for your time. And before I let you go, I would love to know what your plans are going forward.
A lot of sleep. Yeah, funny. We
Sure.
just shipped the film. I think I emailed you like on Tuesday. Well, like we literally shipped the film on Tuesday, and then our screening is next Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're in a mad dash, and especially in pandemic times, we're all working remote. So
Hmm.
um, it's been challenging to say the least. But I want to be able to get this film out there and just be able to work and see what's going on. Work and projects are always on are being in progress, shall we say? But obviously, the industry itself is in a bit of an interesting lurch. So I think it's anyone's guess for anyone right now. I have a lot of ideas that I want to do, but it's kind of a question of whether the industry is ready to get back to work as well. So
Yeah, it's interesting in like an apocalyptic way.
yes, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be my last dying words. In the great nuclear uh, apocalypse, I'll just like, yeah, that's interesting.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike.